Hey guys, welcome to the Skolo Online YouTube channel, the channel that is all about learning, all right? Today we're going to pick up where we left off last week. We are doing our tutorial where we are building a web application that is really not a web application, but it's a WhatsApp application. However, we're going to build it on Django because we obviously have to do some server processing and some stuff in the background, and we're going to do that via Django because we also have to serve an HTTPS sort of like endpoint, and you'll see what I'm talking about later on. Okay, so today we're going to do a couple of things today, and before we get into that, let's go through all the basic sort of like administration stuff. Okay, if you're new to this channel, make sure you are subscribing to this channel so that you get notifications, and turn on your notifications so that you'll be notified every time we produce a new video. Lately we've been doing a video every 2 weeks. I'm trying to get back to doing a video every week, but you know what, life is really hectic, but I'm giving my best, guys. And of course the content I put out on this channel is really worth it. That if I did it once every 2 weeks, I'm sure you're still getting a lot of good value out of it. All right, so make sure you subscribe so that you'll know when a new video comes out. On top of that, like this video and leave me a comment, because that really helps our channel. All right, the more you comment, the more you interact with the video, the more the sort of YouTube algorithm goes off and sort of sees this as a useful video and recommends it to more people, other people, so that more people can view this content that we're producing. Okay, so 2 things: like, comment, and subscribe. That's 3 things. All right, now that you've done all of that, let's get back to learning. All right, so today what we're going to do, let me see, I think I've got a list here somewhere of everything I want to cover today. All right, so what I want to do today is we're going to create our Django application, and I've done this a million times, and today I'm going to do it again in front of the camera. We're going to do it from scratch, brand new Django application. And as usual, I'm going to build my Django application on my virtual server that's sitting in DigitalOcean. And remember what I told you guys last week when you were watching? I told you, go get yourself a DigitalOcean droplet. I even gave you a link where you can do that, so I hope you've got it. And I even showed you a video where you can get your DigitalOcean droplet set up. Okay, if you haven't done that yet, go and watch last week's video and see what I said about getting your droplet set up, because I'm going to continue from a point where I'm assuming you've got the droplet ready to go, and then I'm just going to start by installing the Django application. Then we're going to immediately deploy our Django application. All right, this is something that's necessary for this type of a project specifically because of what we're going to do here with sending messages via the Facebook API. It's the Facebook API, but it's the Facebook WhatsApp cloud API to be specific. The cloud API there's 2 things you can do with it. The first one is you can receive messages and you can send messages through it. Sending messages, we even demonstrated that last week using this Postman. All right, and we saw that our API key works and you can send messages without an issue. All right, but receiving messages is where the trick comes in, because if somebody now sends a message to that phone number, you need to be able to receive it and display it inside of your application, because typically with a phone you would receive a messages on your phone, on your WhatsApp in your phone, right? But now we need to be receiving it on our web application inside the cloud. All right, so the way that's going to work is you're going to receive it via what they call a webhook. All right, we've seen webhooks before. We worked with the webhooks when we did that video on the Messenger, Facebook Messenger. We've dealt with webhooks in the past. Every time you need to receive something online, we did it even when we did the payment processing stuff. We looked at webhooks. So it's going to be exactly the similar sort of approach. What a webhook is basically an endpoint. It's a route, a path, a view function. Not a view function, really, a path, a function, a view function inside of your application where you provide, ability to receive a post request. All right. So Facebook API will send a post request to that path that you give it, and then you need to be ready to receive and process those post requests. That's why we call them webhook. It's almost like we're setting out a hook and we're hooking everything that's coming through via that post view. So it needs to be just a path inside of your application that you leave it open, and whenever you get messages, anything like that, those messages get sent to that path as a post request, and then they're going to be sent with specific information and verification things in there that you're going to have to look at and process and verify that this is the right thing, and that nobody, because technically a webhook can receive anything, because once the path is out there, anybody can post to it. But the key is that you need to be able to, when you receive the correct message through your webhook, to take it through your internal verification processes to make sure that this is really coming from Facebook, so there will be some keys in place and things like that, but we'll cover that when we get to that. All right, so that's what I really want to make sure that I cover by the end of the day, is to build in the foundation of sending a message and receiving a message. All right, once we've done that, then we can proceed and now build the functionality of what we want to achieve. Because I think what we said we're going to do is we want to build a business plan generation engine via API, where we will be sending users will be sending numbers via a WhatsApp, messages to us, and then we will take all of that and inside the application, build what we're building, and then send them back the business plan or a pitch deck, or whatever you want to call it. We could do a pitch deck, or we could do a business plan, or we could do both. I don't know. We'll see when we get to that point. But that will be the use case of what we're building. But really, what I'm teaching you today is the tools of building an actual WhatsApp application, because this is going to be the future of things, guys. What you're learning here today is going to be the future of things, because web applications have been done, and now it's a time when the industry is getting towards how do we build applications that are more accessible to people, and WhatsApp is going to be the future. And Facebook having released this API, I think people are still trying to figure out and learn how to use it. All right, so learn something from this video series, and go back out there and think about use cases and build something amazing, and then come back and tell me about it once you've done it. All right, so that's what we're going to do. I'm going to take this Postman and put it aside. Right, I'm going to put this lecture notes right over here, and then the first thing that we need to do obviously is to build our Django application. Right, and if you're new to this channel, we do have documentation that we've written it over time, because we do this thing all the time. So I've written this documentation, and you can just go and look at this link, and you can follow the steps on this link yourself as well, because we're trying to make this thing easily accessible for people. And our documentation is basically online. If you go to skolo.online/document/Django, all right, /Django, like this link over here, which I can put in the description as well of the video, you will find our Django documentation. All right, and go through where do we start with this? I think we're going to start with what this does over here. It just installs the Python and Python pip, which I've already done on this virtual server. It also installs Postgres SQL, which I've already done on this server, because I already have another Django app running on the same server. But if you were building a server from scratch, you would need to start right at the beginning with updating your packages and installing Python, pip, and all of the things that you need to get Django working. But for now, even Postgres SQL I've already installed. So I'm going to start here, where I'm going to start by this lines of code. Install a database, a Postgres SQL database, because there's two ways to work with Django. You could use the MySQL, the small development server database, the small development database that comes with Django. All right, but because I know I'm always going to deploy my application, I prefer to actually use a Postgres SQL database, which is more robust for for an application that you're going to deploy in the end. Production level applications work on Postgres, right? Then after that, we're gonna then install our actual application. We're gonna install the Django, and then we're gonna start the application, and then we're gonna make sure that our database is set up properly inside of the Django application. We're gonna do the basic functionalities of running migrations, creating a super user, and then we should be able to, our application should be ready to go. All right, so these are the steps to follow over here. So we're gonna start here with the database. Okay, so where is let me just move this over here closer. All right, so run all of these functions in a place where you want your folders to sit. Right, so you'll see over here, if I ls, this is an empty, there's nothing else in here except for the repo. This repo it's just something I built ahead of time to help me push and pull information between my virtual server and my personal computer, because I like to write the code in my personal computer and run it in the virtual server. So you'll see all the time I'm constantly pulling and pushing with Git. You don't have to do it that way, but if you want to do it that way, you can also go into the cheat sheet, I think, and you can go into Git push, right? And you can read what I did here with Git. And over here you will see how, what you need to do to set up a repo, a Git repo that you can pull from and work with on your virtual server. But I'm not going to cover that today. Today I'm just going to start with doing the the database. All right. So the first thing you need to do is this one logs you into the Postgres SQL. So you need to just run that command. Okay, I'm gonna have to enter my sudo password because it's a sudo command, and then you'll see that the prompt is different. This prompt is not the same as the prompt that we had over here. We are now running commands inside of the Postgres SQL. So I'm going to build a new database. I'm gonna call it message because I like to call my database the same name as my sort of root folder, so that I don't forget which database is for which application. So I'm gonna just do this create database, just copy these lines in, but run them one at a time. All right, so you just copy that in there, and instead of calling it Skolo, I'm gonna call it message. All right, and then you'll see it will respond to you. It has created a database called message. All right, and then I'm gonna create a user. All right, so this line creates a user and it gives the user a name. So I'm gonna call it, instead of Skolo user, I'm gonna call it message user. And the password, I'm just gonna leave it as password. Okay, it's all right, I'll change it later. All right, then it has created that. And then alter role encoding to UTF-8. The role that you're altering is for the message user. So I'm just gonna go back in there and instead of Skolo, say message user. Okay, so that's altered. And then read committed, that's also very, very important. Just copy and paste these lines exactly as they are, and the only thing you need to change is whatever your name of your database is, the only thing you need to change. But the lines themselves, everything, you just do it as it is. Okay, not Skolo message, because I'm calling my user message user. All right, the role is altered, and of course your time zone is very important, but you can use whatever time zone you're at. I am in Africa, Johannesburg, so I'm using Africa, Johannesburg time zone, but you can use whatever the time zone that where you are, because this will be now the time zone of the database, of the SQL database. All right, so I'm in Africa, I'm happy with that. And then grant all privileges to the and that's all you have to do. So over here you'll see grant all privileges on database Skolo. So this database should be message to message user. Cool, grant, perfection. And then I can log out. This .q just logs you out of the database, and then you can clear, and then your database is good to go. And then you just need to remember your username and your password, because you're going to enter them inside of your settings.py file like that. Okay, then once you've done that, you need to upgrade virtual environment and all of that. I've already installed virtual environment personally, so I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to create a virtual environment. So what this one does is that it installs or upgrades pip3, which I've already done. I don't need to do it again. This was installs virtual environment. I've already done this on this virtual server because I've run this application. I've done another Django application here before. Okay, and then make directory. I've already done that. I'm already in the directory that I need to make, so I don't need to do that again. Now the only thing I need to do is to create my virtual environment. Okay, so you'll see that virtual environment, I already have it. I always work inside of one, so I'm going to just call it message env. All right, the way you name a virtual environment, you always want to end up with env so that you differentiate it from other folders, because a virtual environment is a folder. So if I name it with the ending env, I know it's an environment, and then whatever my project name I put at the beginning so that I know which environment it's for. That's why, that's my message, that's my naming convention. You can use whatever convention that makes sense to you. This one makes sense to me, so that I always remember which environment it's for and that it is an environment. But actually, in reality, what it really does, if you now list over here, you'll see it's just a folder. It just creates a folder. But now I can differentiate this folder from that folder. If I hadn't called it env at the end, I wouldn't know it's an env folder, right? Then once you've done that, then you need to activate that folder. All right, so you need to activate it, you just basically do source, and then I'm gonna just copy the name of the folder or the environment, and then you do bin activate. All right, that activates the virtual environment, and immediately you see it like that at the beginning. Okay, I'm gonna clear and make some space, and then now you can install the things that you need to work with. Okay, so we need to install Django. All right, we need to install this Skolo G2. This is for the database, for working with the database, so this one is a must to install it. The other one that I love to install as well at this stage, so I don't forget to do it, because I have to deploy this application anyway, and it's not in the notes, but just remember this one is you know, the thing that you use to deploy you know, the Django application. All right, what do you call it? Just let me go to deploy and have a look at that. Unicorn, right? Because over here you install it over there, but actually you can install it all at once at the beginning, right? So I'm just gonna install it here as well, Unicorn, like that. All right, so these are the three most important things that you need. There are other libraries you will need as you go along, but you can install them as you need them, right? But these ones are a must for your application to run. Okay, Django is obviously, you need Django. Skolo 2 is for the database, like explained, and Unicorn is for deployment, right? If you scroll down a little bit more, there's other things over here that I've got there, right? You will see I've got other not high level, other sort of typical libraries that you use typically in most Django projects, and you can have a look at it and decide for yourself. For example, we are definitely going to use requests. Okay, that's for sure, because we are going to be calling the API, the you know, the Facebook you know, WhatsApp API. We're going to be using requests to do that, so I might as well install that now. Pillow, I doubt we'll use Pingo and resized, because we're not going to do any profile pictures or things like that. Tiny MCE HTML to text, we're not going to use any of that. Channels, Redis. I think we will need the PDF kit, which I don't have here, because we're going to have to build a PDF. Let's just try and see that. Pip install PDF kit. I hope that's the way you spell it. PDF kit, yes, that's the one, because we're going to need to, when we create the PDF of our business plan, when we're going to email that PDF to the person or send them a link via WhatsApp, we're going to need that. So other than that, I think we're good for now. So what we're going to do now is, now that we've installed Django, let's list over here. You'll see there's nothing there. We're going to now start project. Okay, and we're going to call our project, I'm going to call our project message again. Yes, I just want to call it, I want to keep consistent, right? And then what it will do is that it will create a project called message. Okay, if you list now, there's a new folder called message. If you go into that folder over there, you will see that you've got a folder called message, and you've got that message in there as well. All right, now that you've done that, you need to then make some changes inside of your application. But I'm just trying to think now. Am I going to have multiple apps for this? You know, because, you know, with the Django project, you normally have, you have a start app, and then you have, so let me see, Django admin start app. Yeah, let's create a new app. Start app. Let's create a new app called profile. Yeah, you cannot use the app called profile. Let's use business. Okay, we created an app called business. All right, let's see, there it is. We've got an app called business, and then we need to make some changes inside of our settings.py file, which is inside of the message folder. All right, Then so this is the structure, so we need to make some changes to the settings.py file. If I look at it here, we can actually open the settings.py file from here. So you need to do nano message settings.py, because this settings.py file is sitting inside of the message folder. All right, and if you can check that by looking at the folder structure that I've put for you over here. But otherwise you can actually just look inside the folder and see what's in there, and you'll see that it's in there. And when you open it, it should open like that. All right, then you know that you've got everything right. So debug, we'll leave debug as true. What I like to do is I always like to change this secret key that comes by default, okay, a Django insecure, and put in my own secret key at the beginning. And the secret key can just be a string, okay. It's just a string of numbers and variables. The longer you are, the more secure it will be, right? That's okay. And then once you've done that, allowed hosts, you can put in everything inside of like a string. You can put localhost, you can put in whatever the domain we're gonna set this thing on, because I think I already know what domain I'm gonna put this on. I've called it message.skolo.online, and then you can put in the actual server IP address, all right, which is you can see it at the top here. All right, 146. This is like this is like your IP address for your droplet, whatever droplet you're working with. You just want to put that as an allowed host. Okay, so I'm gonna put mine. It's 146.190.17 .197. Okay, that's my IP address. And I think you can also put something like .not. I think that's the same as localhost. What is it? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. I think that also works. All right, and then installed applications, do everything like that. You just leave it like, add your new app that you just added in here. All right, so I'm going to 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm just gonna put in like a hashtag to separate the sort of installed apps that came with the Django and the created applications. So I'm gonna call it created applications, so I can differentiate what's what. 2, 3, 4, and I think I called it business, right? And then just remember to put in a comma at the end. All right, and then we can scroll down the middle way. We're gonna leave everything as it is. We're gonna leave that as it is. We're not gonna have templates in this specific case, which is really cool. So databases, you see everything where it says databases, this whole section, you want to replace it with this, databases, like that. Okay, so I'm going to actually like delete all of this. All right, otherwise it would have created the SQLite 3 database for you, but we don't need that because we're going to be using Postgres. So just delete everything there, and you can copy what you have here and paste that in there. But remember to change the username and password. All right, so if you remember our database, we changed it from Skolo and we called it a message, and the user, we changed it from Skolo user and we called the user message user, and we kept the password as password. We didn't change that. All right, message user, that's cool. And then at the bottom of the file, just remember to add this os base dir at the bottom of the message. So just static. So over here where it says static URL there, just replace that. All right, so this is static root and static URL. I think we also need like a it's using OS at the top here, so let's make sure we have imported OS at the top. All right, import OS, or else you're gonna get an error. OS is not defined. All right, so this should be enough for now. Oh yeah, the time zone. The time zone, I'm not on UTC, so I'm going to change this time zone here as well to match the time zone I'm using in the database. And use time zone true and use this true. Language is English US. And then, yeah, let's save that. Cool. And then once we've saved that, we can now run migrations. All right, and hope we don't get any errors. All right, no changes detected, no errors. Let's migrate. Cool. And then let's create a super user to access the admin so we can see what's going on in the admin. Create super user, create a username. All right. Cool. Passwords are matching now. Then we can collect static, but there's not, yeah, we need to run this for the admin static as well. So let's run that. Cool. So if we now list here, there should be now a static folder that wasn't there before. Perfect. And now we can just run this application in a server, yeah. So let's do this. Let's allow 5,000. All right, so we can run this on 5,000. All right. All right, and then let's run this on 5,000. All right, so this is what 146.190. Let's have a look. 146.190. 146.190, and it's 5,000 port. And there's your Django application. So this is what you normally see when you've just installed a new Django application. If you haven't defined any route, any path, any HTML, this just lets you know that you have successfully installed your Django app and everything is good. All right, so if you see this, you are good. All right, now what we need to do next is to deploy this. All right, we want to deploy this, and I actually want to replace this HTML page with do I want to replace it or want to leave it like that? Yeah, I want to replace it with like a blank page that says, to get started, please WhatsApp to this number. Like this is, you want to build like a landing page or something like that, right? So we'll replace that with that, but maybe not this week, okay? Maybe we do that next week. But for now, let's focus on, so we can stop this here, all right? And we can go into deploying our Django application. All right, but before we deploy it, like I said, I just want to build like a basic, I don't know, like a page that just says, hi, please message this number or something like that. We will make it look nicer later on. Okay, so that's part one of our video done. Let's get ready to do the next part. What we're supposed to be doing next is deploying the Django application. All right, but before I deploy the application, there's a couple of settings I just want to double check here. All right, so we were Django imports, this was the last thing we saw in the page that we're at. Just continue. There's more settings that can help you get started with inside of your settings file. So this part of the documentation that says Django settings, it's just extra things to help you along. Message tags are important. We're not going to be using message tags because we know when I have a lot of HTML templates. Maybe we'll have just like one template for one application. I think just like a landing page template. I think it's just gonna be, we're gonna build one landing page template, so we might need to use this. So let's open up our settings.py file again. If you remember, nano is a command to open the text editor, and then the settings is inside of this message folder. So we're gonna go message, and then inside of the message folder we're gonna open a file called settings.py. all right, so this is the same settings folder over there. I actually want to remove all of this at the top of the file. It's just there for, I mean, if you're using Django for the first time, maybe it's going to be useful links to sort of help you get started with the Django admin, start project, start app, all of those commands that you need. But we don't need that. It's just taking up a lot of space at the beginning, so I'm just going to get rid of it. This is why I don't like working with the nano text editor, because it's really limited in its functionality. Eventually we're going to pull these files into our personal computer and we're going to work on them from there, but for now let's just do the minimum stuff. All right, so the template, instead of the templates, I just want to have this, I want to copy the entire the entire list. So let's go in there, and I think this is the DIRs inside of the templates. It's over here. So if I go back there, this entire list, just replace it with OS path join base directory templates, which means we need a folder inside of the base directory called templates, and we're going to put all our templates in there. So this is just to direct Django as to where your HTML templates are going to be saved. Okay, so just remember what we called it here. We called it templates. We need to call that folder templates, and then we can build it app directories through, which means inside of that templates folder we can build all the different directories for the different applications, starting with business, which is our first application called business. We can do that. All right, then a template tags, we don't have that for now. We're not going to do any template tags. Database is sorted, time zone is sorted, so let's remember that. Media and static files, I think that's important. Media and static files. So over here where we had that static root called static, and then we had static file, static URL and static root. Okay, static root and static URL. Okay, so I think I must just copy all of this, right, and delete all of that and just replace it once off, so that I know I've got everything. So this covers both the static and the media root. Okay, the static root is the part of your application where you're going to keep all your static files, and your static files are like your your CSS and your HTML and all of that, which we're probably not going to need a lot of. Maybe we'll do just like one bootstrap, but I don't think this is not going to be a web application. This is going to be a Django WhatsApp application. So maybe we have one landing page, and maybe for that we might have some CSS and JavaScript files, but so that's why you need that static root for. That means that you need to have a folder called static. Then we have media root. What media root is where you're going to upload files. So if somebody uploads a file, it sits inside of the media root. All right, so that's the difference between static and media root. Okay, and then this is if you want to send an email using your Django application. I'm just trying to think, are we going to send any emails? I like to just always have the settings done anyway, because more than often you do need to send emails. So I'm just gonna paste it in there and say yeah. Later on I'll come back and add the correct username and password, because you're gonna have to set your correct host, your actual email address as a user and default from email, and whatever your password is for your email. Okay, so you can just get that and set them in there. I will let you do it off camera so that we don't see your passwords and you don't see my password. And then we've got the login and the URL page. We're not gonna use any of these, but maybe let me just paste it in there in case later on we end up using it. Okay, so I don't forget to do it, because when you forget to do this, your application starts to behave behaves in a very weird way, especially when you're trying to redirect from certain URLs. When certain URLs require decorators, like login required and anonymous required, sometimes in the login required, anonymous required decorator, you're not specifying where to redirect, because Django has a default place where it redirects people. So you need to set that up inside of your settings. If you don't, it's going to be redirecting people to some other place. You don't want it to do that. So if you're going to use any of those decorators, then you have to specify this here. Then after that, Django resize, we will definitely not be using any of that. And I think that's it. That's it for the settings of py file. All right, so I'm gonna say actually just need to close this and say yes in there. All right, so what we're gonna do now is that I'm gonna try and pull these files from here. So this is the virtual server where I'm working from. All right, I need to actually create this is the virtual server where I'm working from. And then this is the personal VPS. You'll see there's nothing in here now. All right, what we need to do is to pull all of these files inside of our virtual server over here. All right, so this is where I want to pull all my files, and to do that I used the inside of my Skolo documentation. Remember, there's git pull and git push. Just use the git pull instructions. Okay, this will help you to pull the files, and then you use a git push to push them back. All right, so I've done a video on this, just go watch it. But now what I've done is that I've pulled the files over here, and now I want to build my own HTML which just says Skolo Online Learning. Very, very simple. So to do that, create a blank HTML page. Let me just show you how I started it. Inside of Atom, if you're using Atom, you just start typing HTML. You'll see there's that green thing that sort of like suggests which it can autocomplete for you. If you just say enter, it will give you like a sort of boilerplate HTML file. All right, and you can just add something here on the title and say Skolo, and then over here I just added a heading one that says Skolo Online Learning. All right, I just want to have an HTML to display so that I can deploy this application. Once you've done that, then you need to sort out your URLs and your view functions and everything to display this HTML page. And the good thing is that you're going to set this up once, and then it's going to be done, and then the next time you will just sort of be adding on to it. There's a couple of things you must do. If you remember our settings.py file, if you go back to where our settings.py file and you go to the bottom here, you remember we added that OS path join base directory templates, right? What you need to do over here is that you need to create a folder called templates, and that's what I've done there. I've created a folder called templates in the base directory of your application. So everything is sitting where the manage.py file is. Create a folder there called templates. Inside of that folder, we are going to replicate the structure of all our applications. So the first application we're building is business. So the business is that application over there. So create a folder called business in there, and then we're going to put an HTML file. That's where the index.html file is sitting. It's sitting inside of the business folder, inside of the templates, and it's just a blank HTML that says Skolo Online Learning, right? So once we've done that, we go back to our our message, which is our main application, our main project directory. And inside of the URLs, we're going to add an include. All right, and you'll see that there's instructions over here showing you how to do that. You can do like an include like that, and what it does is that it includes a whole folder of URLs. So instead of building all our URLs in this one project directory, what we're going to do is that we're going to build multiple URLs in the multiple applications. So for the business application, we're going to want to build our URLs in there. So we want to create our own URL file in there so that it can have just the URLs for that application. And then you need to then include that URL file in here by using that include library and just typing inside of the quotes the business URLs. This business is the business application or folder, and then inside of there the file is called URLs. All right, and then inside of this file is where we're going to start building the application for business. All right, and then that's where you're gonna refer to the home, and this is going to be the name of the view function, and then this is just like what we call that URL if you want to refer to it inside of the template or anywhere else inside of our Django application. We've done this many times before. If you're new to Django, I can't spend too much time explaining this. Please check our previous tutorials. But the key here is to create a separate URL file inside of your application and just refer to it inside of the main project directory using include. Okay, then I can actually delete all of this. I don't need that anymore. So now we've got our business.urls. Then inside of that URLs, we will now refer to a view function called home, right? So that view function called home, we need to build it inside of the views, and you can see we are importing it at the top there, okay, from .import views. So we're going to go to views, and we're going to write a function. We're going to call it home. We have to call it home because that's what it's called over there, not over here. Over there it's called home, views.home. So instead of the views, we're going to call it home, and then we just render the business index.html. So we're rendering that file inside of the business. So when we direct to this location, we must direct it from the base of the templates folder. All right, so from inside of the templates folder, there's another folder called business, and then the file is called index.html. That's what we're doing there, and that's all you need to display your first HTML file, and that's all we're going to display. In fact, we're going to display this, and then maybe inside of here we want to say, and we'll fix our HTML later. All right, for now we just want to display something. Let me say h2 over here. Okay, to get started, send a WhatsApp to, let's get our WhatsApp number inside of our I think inside of our business. If you remember, this is what we did last week. We created this application, and we are given a test number to work with. All right, so this test number is the one that I want to what is it called, 155. How do I copy this number? Well, I can do that. Okay, you get assigned a test number when you get started. So I'm gonna say send a WhatsApp to get started. Send a WhatsApp, you know, to get started with your business plan. So someone lands on our page, at least they can see the number and all of that. All right, so now what I'll do is that I will now git push. No, git commit first. Then we can push, and once we've done that, we can then run it here on our port 5000. And then if we go back there and we refresh that, we should see that Skolo Online Learning, get started with your business plan, send a WhatsApp to this. Okay, so that's all we need. From now, I'm going to now go and deploy this application, because we need to deploy this application to do the next steps, which is what we have over here, which is sending a message from Django and receiving a message from Facebook. We need a webhook, but that webhook works via HTTPS. Okay, so it needs an HTTPS endpoint, which means you need to deploy this first on HTTPS domain, and then after that, only then can you actually start working with the WhatsApp API. So we create our blank page. Let us save everything, and then let's get ready to deploy this. All right. So to get started with deployment, you can go through our documentation again, go to Django, look for deploy Django. There it is. So you need to update your allowed hosts. I think we've done that already. So if we go into settings, we have our allowed hosts. This is the domain we're going to deploy on. Okay, message Skolo Online. We need to install GUnicorn. If you remember, we just installed it earlier on. We can actually test that GUnicorn works by running this command. Okay, that it's installed correctly, and that's important to do this, because before you get started later on, you don't want to troubleshoot. Candy, the problem is the GUnicorn never worked the first time. So follow the steps exactly the way we show them, because at this stage you need to know that your GUnicorn works, so that if it doesn't work, you can troubleshoot the GUnicorn, right, separately. So 1, 2, 3, that is the port I'm running this on, and my project is called message WSGI. Just remember, inside of the message folder, there is that WSGI. This is the name of the application. So this is what's going to be running. Okay, so what you're actually telling it is, GUnicorn, go look inside of where I am right now, look for a folder called message, and inside of there, look for the WSGI application. That's what you're going to be running, and bind it to port 5000 and run it. Okay, so you should run this without errors. And then if you go and search for your application on port 5000 and refresh it, you should still see your application running properly. Then that means that your GUnicorn is running without an issue. All right. Then once you've done that, we're gonna go and we're gonna deactivate, and then we're gonna do our service file. Okay, this takes a while. This is a bit of a mission, and unfortunately I have to do this in front of everyone, but it takes a bit of time. So we need to create a service file, all right? And this service file is going to look exactly like this. So let me just copy that. Instead of calling it GUnicorn socket, I'm going to call it message socket. This is whatever the name you want to call that, socket file, and enter my password. All right, and then just paste what's in here. All right, just paste what's in here and have a look again. Okay, read what you're pasting. Sometimes and I always tell this even to my juniors and guys that I'm training all the time, and I remind them, when you find someone's code or you find a tutorial and you're copying and pasting code, you can't just copy and paste code, because this is normally what happens. People copy and paste and then they run into errors, and then they want to copy and paste the error and send to me as well, because the code they copy and pasted gave them that error. That's not how you learn how to develop. If you see someone else's code, they ran that code under a certain environment, under certain conditions, right? The idea is not to just copy and paste the code. This is why I never make my code available on GitHub, because I'm trying to avoid this practice people have of just copying and pasting code. What you need to do is you need to understand the code. You need to read this and see, what is this code saying? What is happening here? Because code is like a language, right? What is it saying? I'm describing a GUnicorn socket. Then you'll remember, no, actually I called it message, right? So rename this to what you called it, right? And then have a look at the link stream. You're running the socket over there. So this is a run command. All right, so this is a run command for the socket, but because I called it message, I must just rename it to that as well. All right, and then go and have a look at it's wanted by by the socket's target and so forth. Read the code to understand what the code is doing. That's why I want guys to watch my video and write this themselves. Hence, I don't provide somewhere you can just go and copy and paste this code. It's specifically for that reason, because you'll never learn what's happening there. You'll never learn if you just copy and paste code. Okay, so I'm going to open this again and make sure that this is right, okay? Because it was doing some funny things there. All right, so that's fine. So then let's do the next one, which is the service, all right? And we're going to call it again a GUnicorn service. Instead of GUnicorn service, we're going to call it message service. You need 2 files. All right, and then over here you need to then paste what's in here, and again keep in mind exactly what it is you are pasting. Make sure you know what it is you're doing over there. Don't just paste code blindly. Actually, I want to paste it here first so that I can make sure that this is right. Okay, all right, this is not Unicorn daemon, this is message. All right, requires the message socket. All right, after network target service, my username that I'm using on this machine is Zatosh. The group is www.data. Yes, the working directory is home. So my working directory is over here. It's a home development. It's home username, then it's development, right? So it's home. My username is Zatosh. All right, and then it's development. Then it's message and message. This is the directory where everything is kept, right? And then the exec start is message and then the env. All right, so not this, only up to the first message from here. All right, the env. So it's gonna be home, Zatosh, development, message. Because if you remember, let me close this. Right? You see where we are? We are on message. If you see the up of here, this is where the environment is, and it's called message env. So it's whatever comes ahead of this, which is home, Zatosh, development, it's message, and then it's the message env. So that's how you get to. So it's only that one message, and then it's the message env, and then you're gonna look for the bin GUnicorn in there. All right, and then the log file workers, I'm happy with 3 workers. Bind, remember this is the message socket. All right, that's what we called it. And then my project name inside of that message socket is called message WSGI application, and then you can do all of that. So just make sure that when you copy the code, you are looking through each and every single line and checking what it means. What did you call your application? Don't just blindly copy code. All right, so we're gonna cd out of, no, we need to cd into, actually it doesn't matter where we are to run this command, because it's looking for the file exactly. So let's open it. Message.service. We never saved anything in it the last time. All right, and then we're gonna save this. Okay, and then I'm just gonna double check that everything is still okay. Okay, that's the description, that's the socket, the network target, my user, my group, www data, working directories, home, Zatosh development, message. Yes, the exact start is the start command is gonna go and look for the G unicorn, which is inside of home Zatosh development message env bin G unicorn, and then it's gonna run with 3 workers with the socket, and WSG application is gonna run that. Okay, so that's good. I'm gonna say yes, save that. We're gonna test all of this to be working properly just now. All right, for you to do that, we need to start the message socket. All right, and if there's an error, it will tell you. All right, no error, so we're good. And then we need to enable it. Cool. And then after that, we can check the status. All right, what is it? Message.socket. All right, so this is good, it's running well. If you see that green thing over there, loaded and message service, you should know that you're okay. Otherwise you would have seen an error in its place. And then you can check the status of your message. You can just say status message like that, and then you can see that it says dead, but it's actually it's running fine. If you see this, it means you're good. All right, then after this, you can then set up your Nginx. You can set up your Nginx. To do that, you can first of all, let's okay, this is installing Nginx, assuming you don't have it installed already in your virtual server. I've already got Nginx installed. All right, so I'm gonna go straight into my folder, and I'm going to open my file sudo nano Nginx site available. I'm gonna call it message. I'm just gonna call it message, and then it's an empty file. All right, so just copy what's in here and paste it in there, keeping in mind exactly what you're copying and pasting. Some of these things are outdated, I haven't updated them in a while, so I'm gonna paste them in here and see what I'm doing. So listen on port 80. Yes, my server name is what we remember what we called our server name. We called it message. We called it message.skolo.online. All right, I don't know if we have www though, so I think I'm just gonna have message Skolo.online without www. Okay, and then my fav icon is not being served like that, but I am serving my static folder. Currently it's gonna be root home. Let's just get our home Zatosh development message, right? And then that's a static, and then our socket is not unicorn socket, it is message socket. And then you can do the same thing to serve your uploads. Okay, we're not uploading anything yet, but if we're gonna deploy this, we need to deploy it right, so that when we do upload anything, it's just there. All right, so what we called our uploads folder is, if I look over let me look at my settings.py, we called it uploads. I just want to make sure, yeah, we called it uploads with an S. All right, cool. So just say uploads there. So we are serving both the uploads folder and the static folder in production. All right, and then the root is the same root. Okay, development message sock. Our server is message Skolo Online. All right, then that's good. And Message Skolo Online is the domain which you're going to serve this application on, right? If you've seen my videos in the past, how do we get that domain? All right, you go to a domain service provider like we did last week. You buy the domain. All right, like last week we bought business domain. What do you call it? Business plan domain .ai. Once you've bought that domain, you need to set the what we call the A record of that of within the DNS server to point to the IP address that you're working from. Okay, this we've done before. If you look in the past at our previous deployment tutorials, you're gonna find it. I don't want to do that in detail. This is assuming that your domain is already pointing to the IP. So if you run this and then the domain doesn't work, perhaps you haven't set up the DNS correctly. You can even just ask your service provider, whoever it is that you bought the domain from. You don't need to buy a domain, and then you can just call the customer support and say, hi, I've bought this domain, I'm building an application on this digital. You don't have to tell them where you're building it, but you can just give them the IP address. This IP address is the same IP address here at the top there that you see inside of your shell. You can just say, this is the IP address I'm building my application. Can you please point the A record, letter A, the A record to point to this IP address? They can do it for you, or else they can show you how to do it. Maybe their documentation shows you how to do it. The point is just point to the A record of your domain to this. Then when you do that, it's gonna work. Once you've created the A record. If you haven't created an A record and you do this, it won't work. Right, so that's the thing. And then you're gonna say yes over there, and there's a way to check that the A record has been pointed correctly. So after you tell them please do that, what I normally do is I do a DNS check. You can just Google DNS checker. You're gonna come across like a website like dnschecker.org, where you can just enter your domain over here, right? So my domain is my URL, my IP address. My IP address is this one, right? So I just want to check the DNS for this. Actually, no, not this one. The domain that I bought is this one, and this domain must match my IP address. So I can just search for it, and then you can see there it is. It's 146.197 because I've already updated my A record. If you had not updated your A record at this point, you go call your provider. You say, hey guys, my A record is not pointing. You must have a hosting, obviously, bought with your domain. You have to buy a domain and hosting. Then once you've done that, then you say, just please redirect my A record to this IP address I'm working from. And then, not my IP address, whatever the IP address of your virtual server that you'll be working from. And then once you've done that, then when you run this, it will work without an issue, all right? So just reminding you there. Then once you've done that, you need to do then link. You need to create a sim link. This is a sim link between sites enabled and sites available. All right, you just need to replace your name of the project there from sites available to sites enabled. All right, and I think we called it message, and that's it. If there was an error, it would have told you that. And then you just need to check your Nginx configuration that there's no errors in your Nginx. You should get this config test successful. If you don't, you're gonna have a problem, and it could affect your other applications if you're running other websites of the same. So make sure you test this before you enable or restart Nginx. This is very important, because if there was an error with one of the configuration files and you didn't test to check the error and fixed it, the moment you restart Nginx, it's going to update including with the error. Okay, so you don't want to run the restart until you've checked this. If this is unsuccessful, you troubleshoot that error until you get it to be successful, then only do you run restart Nginx. Okay, so I'm going to restart Nginx there. You won't see anything, but it's restarting, don't worry about it. And then this is for the firewall. I've already allowed Nginx full because I'm already running this application somewhere else. So now what I need to do is, this is where it was running on my IP. Now I need to check it on I need to check message.skolo.online. all right, I should see my application running there. There it is. But you see, it's not running on HTTPS yet. And the only reason why we did this was so we could run it on HTTPS, so we could do our webhooks, because our webhooks are not going to work on HTTP, especially with Facebook. Facebook insists on it. So I need to run Nginx. And for you to do that, this is installing setbot Nginx. I've already installed it. All I need to do is to run this setbot to install the actual certificate on my domain. And my domain, if you recall, is message.skolo.online. Right, that's all you need, and then it's gonna do some challenges. But by now you shouldn't have a problem because you've already checked that your domain DNSs are working fine. So the challenges will just go without an issue. It will deploy a certificate. Now here you normally just want to select number 2, and then you're good to go. All right, so then when you go back to your website and you refresh this, you should now have a secure HTTPS thingy there. So now we've got our thing. Now when we create root and everything inside of whatever, and you want to create our inside of our application, and we want to create our webhooks, we should be able to do that easily, because now we have HTTPS communication between our web application and the Facebook API. So that's what we're going to do next. Cool. So now that we've got our application deployed, let us start by sending a simple message, but this time we want to send it from the Django application itself, right? So I've written a function that is based on, if you remember what we did here last week, if you remember this, we have, a post request which we sent to this URL. Okay, so you need the URL, which is which has your phone number ID over there. So I just copied this URL, and I'm gonna save it inside of my settings.py file. All right, so inside of my settings.py file, I'm gonna call it WhatsApp URL, and then I'm just gonna paste that URL because it's not gonna change. It will always be the same URL. Okay, so that's version 14. So it will always be the same URL that you send to. The only thing that changes there is this number. And this number is your phone number ID. So if, for example, your application needs to send to different phone numbers, what you can do is that you can then you can leave this blank, and then you can have it as a variable that changes depending on what phone number you're sending from. But in my specific case, I'm going to use one phone number. Even when I later take it to production, I'll use the same phone number. So I can just hard code it in the settings.py file. That's okay. Then the thing that is important is your WhatsApp token. We still have this WhatsApp token that's going to expire every 24 hours. That's okay, because we are still in development. Once we get out of development, we will get a phone number, and I'll show you how to do it. Buy a phone number, get a SIM card, and you can register your SIM card with Facebook, and then you will get a permanent token that doesn't expire on your phone number. So this is a test number. That is why it's just for development purposes. Every day you must update the token. But the token, if you look at the headers over here, you'll see that your authorization header, you're going to use authorization, and then you need to enter bearer, and then you enter that token, that EAG token that ends with the ZC at the end. So that's the same token that we've got over here. So what I've done, I've just called it WhatsApp token, and I've started with the bearer, and then I've pasted the rest of the token over there. Okay, so that's all you need to do. You need two variables, the URL and the token. And then you can see over there, they've even showed you how to do this. Is a post request. You're going to post to this URL. You must include this authorization header, and the content type is JSON. And then this is a message that you must include inside of the data, the body of the thing. So we're going to rewrite this in Django Python, and I've created a new file that I've called functions.py. I'm going to put my functions in there. All right. So inside of this functions.py, I've already written this for you so that you can save time. You need to import settings. Then from settings, you can then get the WhatsApp token and the WhatsApp URL from the settings file. So this is good practice to put your, this kind of things inside of your settings files or your tokens. And then when you move your Git, you can exclude your settings files from your Git, or you can send it separately so that you don't have your secrets being shared with everyone. Okay. Then after that, this is what the payload needs to look like. Okay, I've already tested this. Messaging product is WhatsApp, recipient name is individual. This is similar to what we did over here. So if you look at our what we did over here, it's exactly the same thing there. All right, so let me put this close by and you can see it. So this payload is messaging product is the first thing, WhatsApp. All right, the recipient type is an individual. All right, the two, you're going to enter the phone number in there that you're sending this to. And then the type is a text, and then the text is a body, which is another JSON object, and you can put in there whatever you want to send as a message. All right, and then you just use the import requests, and then you're gonna do request.post. okay, and then this is the URL that you're posting this to, and then your headers include that authorization header, and then your JSON is a payload, and then you just send this through, and then your answer is your response.json. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna test this function. I'm gonna just write something simple in here and put in a phone number. I'm gonna use my phone number, right? Just put that in there. And then the message, I want to show you something. Message is, let's write it like a paragraph, okay? Hello there. All right, new line. This will create a break. This is our first Django WhatApp message. Glad to have you here. Let's try an emoji and see. Let's try and see the sort of like the limits of this. All right, I'm gonna go into Emojipedia and I'm gonna try and look for a smiley face and see if my emojis are gonna go ahead. So then you could just paste your emojis in there. Copy. Let's try an emoji. Right, and then add a new line, another new line, and then I'm gonna say kind regards, and then I'm gonna add a comma, and then I'm gonna add a new line, and then I'm gonna say Skolo Online. All right, I wish you could see this message come through as it comes through to my phone, but I'm sure you can test this on your own phone and it will come through just fine. I'll try and see when I'm editing this video if I can't, show you guys what the message looks like when it comes across on my device. All right, so I'm gonna save this and I'm gonna push this, and then we're gonna test to make sure that this does what it's supposed to do. Okay, so this is sending the message, and then after that we work on the webhook to receive a message. Okay, so this is just the sending part. All right, so if you want to send this, we should then you can then actually just paste this underneath here, and then what will happen is that if you then just call this file, it will run everything, and then it will just run it. Okay, so let's do that. Clear cd message, let's run cd message again. Clear, let's push it. Coolio. Now that we've gotten that running, let's then I'm just gonna say from business import functions. All right, from business import functions. So this should import that file, and then you should just run it. Okay, I need to okay, my env is on. I am in the from a business functions import everything. Oh, I know, of course. What am I thinking? Okay, cool. I'm tired now. You can't just do it like that. You have to run it inside of a shell. Okay, so you need to clear this Python manage .py shell. Okay, then you can say from business functions import everything. Then as it imports, it's actually going to run the function. And then I'm going to have a look at my WhatsApp and see if the message came through. Nothing. So let me see this. Send WhatsApp. So let's see. Return answer. Okay. So let's call this an answer is equals to that. Or actually what we could do is do that and then run it manually, line by line, so you can see what it actually returns. All right. Coolio. We need to exit out of here first so that we can restart it. Shell again. All right, and then you can do from business functions import everything again. This time it's not running anything. All right, I'm going to define the things myself. Phone number is that. The message that I want to send is this one. All right, the message is that. All right, and then the function that I want to run, I'm going to assign it a variable as it should return something. It's going to take time to run it, and then let's see what gets returned. Okay, so it's not sending anything because remember you need to I think the reason why it's not sending anything is that you're not allowed to just send a random message unless if it's inside of a template. So what I need to do is that I need to find that message, the phone number where I sent it the last time, and make sure that this is the correct phone number. Let me just double check what I have on my 555-017-2328. So I need to send a message first to this number so that it has my details, because otherwise it's not allowed to just send random messages to anybody unless if you're using a template. You can only send a message to someone for the first time if you're using a template. Otherwise, I've sent a message, said hi, so now it's going to be responding to my hi message. Okay, so then let's do this again. There you go. There it is. So it's responded to my message, and I will take a screenshot of this, and then you guys will see it. Let me take it now, and then I will show it to you guys later on. Okay, cool. So everything works fine. So if you are trying to send a message and the message doesn't go through, just go find that phone number first, message that phone number, and then when you send it the next time, it will go through. Unless if you have a permanent number, then it will work anytime, because then you have a limit of how many sort of like cold messages you can send when you have a permanent number, because Facebook charges you for that. Okay, so I'm going to exit out of this. My function works perfectly. So what we need to do now is, we know how to now send a message. What we need to do now is to receive a message, and for that we're going to need a webhook, and that's where it gets really, really interesting. So let's get into the webhooks. All right, you have to set your webhook up inside of the application, inside of the Facebook app, because you have to set like the some secret hash strings and stuff like that. So let's get started with the webhook. All right, configure webhooks. Let's click on that. All right, callback URL. This is the URL that you're gonna be to get alerted when you receive a message or when a message status has changed. You need to set up a webhook endpoint for your application. Okay, so for our application, we're gonna go into our URLs called business. We're gonna go into our URLs and we're gonna create a webhook URL. Okay, so let's paste that. Let's call this webhook URL WhatApp Webhook, and let's call it WhatApp Webhook. All right, and then over here I like to use a unique ID, really, because obviously you don't want your webhook URL to be like just an easily guessable URL. You want it to be sort of, yeah, you sort of want to at least try to obscure it somehow. Okay, so I like to use UIDs for this. All right, so I'm going to just put that in this, and this will be my webhook URL. All right, so people will go, so it will be if I type it down here, it will be https, all right, message.skolo.online, all right, and then it will be / this number at the end. So this will be the webhook URL. All right, it will be the app, and then it will be the the endpoint in there. So I can go in there and paste that inside of there. So we're gonna edit in there, we're gonna paste that in there, and then the token, I can use another UUID for the token. All right, so for the token, let's go back there and paste the token, and let me just paste underneath here so that I'll also remember it, what token I've selected. All right, so once you've done that, the moment you click verify and save, it's going to send a GET request to this URL. And then what you need to do is that you need to respond with you need to do a challenge. And then after you've done a challenge, you need to then respond with an HTTP 200 response code to let them know that your URL or your webhook is active. So they're going to send a test GET request to that URL, and you need to pass the challenge and then send back an HTTP 200, right, before you verify. If I just click verify here, it's not going to verify. Okay, let me show you. If I try click verify here, it's going to say the URL could not be validated. Please try again later. It's because I haven't actually built this URL in my application. So that's what I need to do. So I need to go into my application, and I need to create this view function, all right, inside of my views. All right, so I think that's the one there. All right, WhatApp Webhook is the same as what's on the URLs there. Okay, and inside of this view function, I've already written it, but I'll explain to you what I've written in here. All right, it's a GET request. When they're going to send a GET request, and I need to respond with the status 200. All right, so I'm going to say if request or method is get verify token. This verify token is the same verify token over here. All right, so I need to copy this token, and inside of the views, I need to put that token in there. And then the mode is the hub mode, hub verify token, hub challenge. These ones, just leave them as they are. Okay, it's there in the documentation, you can read it later. But you're gonna get all of these from the post request, from the GET request. And then what you're gonna do is that if mode is subscribe and token is equals to verify token, which is that token, because they're gonna send the token as well, and that token is gonna be that request.get hub.verify token. If that's the case, you need to return an HTTP response with a challenge, and the challenge is the hub challenge, right, which you get from this hub challenge inside of your request.get. And then you need to send a status 200, which is this HTTP response status. All right, so what you're doing here basically is that you are listening. You're creating a webhook that is listening, and it's listening on a get point to check that everything is okay. On the get point, you say if the challenge, if the verified token is exactly the same as the verified token that I have, because now I know what the verified token is supposed to be, right? It's the same verified token I give Facebook. So Facebook will now send the GET request with that same verified token I've saved inside of my thingy. And if that's the case, then I send back the challenge which Facebook has sent me. This is like a test to make sure that you're not just gonna respond to any message that is coming into your webhook, because otherwise, if somebody knows my URL, anybody can just go and send me stuff on my webhook. It's live on the internet. That's the whole point, right? So this is a way to double check with Facebook. This is our little secret between the two of us. We know what our verified token is, and then I will always check every time you send me a request that you are sending me the correct verified token, for me to know that you are actually the right Facebook person that's sending this message. That's all we're doing here. And then if that's the case, we send back status 200. So what Facebook is checking for over here to verify, it's going to check that when it sends that GET request, it receives a HTTP 200 with the correct challenge, right? The first time I did this, I scratched my head because their documentation is just like impossible to read. But, I figured it out, and you can just copy my code and this should work, all right? And then now, once you verified that, in future, when someone now sends a message, you'll be able to get a message over here. You'll be able to get, you can use json.loads over here. Let me import JSON at the top. All right. You can json.load the request.body, and then you can do anything you want with the request.body in receiving a message. You can print, you can even like WhatsApp this to yourself. So what I'm going to do here, I can even like, find a way to read this, because now this is going to be working live on a live application, right? So I can't like print and debug that way. I have to find a way to read what is in this message. Okay, so nonetheless, let's test this. And for us to test this, we literally have to push these changes but deploy the changes. Okay, so that the changes are live on the live application. All right, and remember to add this CSRF exempt over here. You could also use an API. You could use the API endpoint view function if you wanted. That would also work. But the CSRF exempt is enough as well. So you don't have to install the entire Django REST framework, because you're gonna need the Django REST framework to do an API endpoint. All right. But with that, if you can do the CSRF exempt, and then you don't need to install a whole Django REST framework, because it's only one endpoint, and you're just checking your webhook, and that's all. Okay. So after you've done all of that, I'm gonna then save. Okay, once you've done this, remember, now we've pushed the changes to the virtual server. We actually have to deploy the changes. We have to redeploy the application. We have to restart the socket and the service files, because now the original files it was based on has changed. Because if you now go to, for example, if I go to this URL now on my website, it will return a 400, right? 404, because it doesn't exist on Skolo Online on my HTTPS. All right, so what I need to do is actually restart the socket and everything, so that the deployed version has my new root. Okay, so let's do that. I think it's sudo systemctl restart message. That's what we called it. All right, now that you've restarted it, and this is another thing, because sometimes when people test webhooks, they get stuck here with Facebook. Oh no, this webhook is not coming through. Like, they get stuck here literally, and they don't, sometimes you have to break down your problem into small little pieces and test each and every single step of your process. So before you even get stuck here and trying to find out from Facebook why they can't even read your URL, you need to test it yourself. If you test it and it says page not found here, Facebook can't find it either. All right, so you need to test it and check the next time you do it. All right, it works now, but the problem is exception value is hub mode, because I didn't actually send anything in the request.get. That's why, but that's fine. At least it's now working. You can see it's going into the right path, because it's going into mode request.get hub mode. It's doing this, right? And it's getting stuck here because request.get doesn't have hub mode, right? Because currently, actually, I'm just doing a simple get from the website. But at least this tells you that the URL is working now. So we're gonna stop that, and then we're gonna go back to our Facebook, and then we're gonna try and verify it again. There you go. So this time it has been verified. Okay, so now that it has been verified, what you can do, because there's no way for us to see when we receive a message, because I'd like to, if the request.post is, the method is post, this is if now somebody sends a post request onto this URL. we need to get the request.body and see what the request.body looks like. So I figured out what the sort of the thing looks like, the sort of the what you call it, the body of the message that gets sent from Facebook post, what it looks like, so that we can just pass the message and get all the important things that we need out of it. Okay, so I've done that for you. You don't have to, but in case you wanted to figure out how, I also figured out what the thing looks like on the documentation, and I will link this in the description. You can see on the documentation, if you look under webhook setup, at the bottom here, they show you the structure of what the message looks like, because it helps you to understand what the message looks like, so that you can know how to dig deeper into that message and get all the different parts of the message to do whatever you need to do with. It sends an object, a JSON object, and inside that JSON object there's a thing called object, and you need to check that this is a WhatsApp business account. So that's what we do. We look at the data, is the JSON loads request.body, and make sure you import JSON at the top. And then once you get the request.body, you look for object in data and entry in data. So we look for there's an object and an entry in this object, in this data object. And if everything is okay, then we can say the data object must be WhatsApp business account, which must look like that. And then after that, then we can go through the entry. Now the entry is a list, is an array of objects. Okay, so we need to sort of iterate through that list. That's what we're doing here, where we are saying for entry in data.entry. All right, so what we do is that data.entry is now a list, and now we go through the entire list, and then we sort of try to say the phone number will be the entry changes 0 value metadata display phone number. So this is just like, what, like if you go into the passing the JSON object, this is where the phone number sits, this is where the phone ID, the profile name, if there's a profile name for the WhatsApp, and the WhatsApp ID. So all of this, if you're not sure, you can just freeze this page right now, and you can then look at it, write it down somewhere. As usual, I don't share the code because it's for your learning, but you can always pause this at this point and have a look at how the thing is passed, because even the documentation doesn't actually cover all of this, right? Like, look at how half the documentation is. It's not really like covering all of that. I had to test this a couple of times and run actual, what do you call it? Run actual post requests and see what gets received and print it out and then look at it and then pass it until I figured this out. Okay, and you can do it yourself. You can just sort of like print the things out, email it to yourself. That's what I was trying to do. And then what I'm doing now is, once that is done, I'm using this send WhatsApp function, which was a function that I created in here. Remember, we started with this function. I'm just going to run this function and send to the phone number and the message. The message I'm going to send is whatever it is that was sent was received, and I'm going to say for my text is going to be the message that is the message body that's going to be WhatsApped. Okay, so whatever that WhatsApp was, I'm going to put it in here and say whatever message was received. Okay, I'm going to respond back. If I send a message, I'm going to respond back, and I'm going to test this webhook. Okay, so whatever you do, just follow this, copy and paste this, run this, and remember to restart your system CTL. Remember to restart your server, because everything must be this whole thing must be restarted on the actual service file. So when you get here, once you've pushed the changes, remember to run this command, sudo system CTL restart the message, so that it restarts the entire server. And then once you've done that, I'm gonna go, and I decided this time, let me just do it like this so that I can show you my WhatsApp over here. This is the original WhatsApp message. Remember that one that we sent when we were testing. Now I'm gonna send a message to myself, to this number, right? And then if my code runs well, it should respond back to me with the text of the message, right? So now that we have the webhook ready, let us see how it goes, right? Then it should respond back to me, yes, with the re, now that you have, because that's exactly what I asked it to do, re, and then put that message in there, was received. So at the end it will say was received. Okay, so now we know our webhook works. It gets the message, it passes it properly, and then you can do whatever you wanted with it. Here I'm just responding the same thing, but obviously now inside of our application we'll be able to get this text, and then we'll be able to do whatever we want to do with it and respond what we want to respond. And now we can get to working, guys. Now we can get our application working. One last thing that I forgot, by the way, sorry, I did this off camera because I was troubleshooting off camera. On your webhook, after you set up your webhook under edit, and go to manage, right, and make sure that you subscribe to messages, because it's not automatically subscribed. That was the reason why I was also not getting the webhook the first time. So make sure you subscribe to messages. It's subscribed, and you can even, when you finish subscribing, you can click test, all right, and it's going to send you a test webhook message, which you can print or email or do something with it to see what it looks like, the structure of the message. But the most important thing is to subscribe there. And when you close this, this is what your page should look like. You should see your webhook URL, your verified token there, and under webhook fields you should see messages. You can subscribe to other webhook things. There's a lot you can do. You can see there is account review update, account update, business capability. There's a lot of things. Phone number, name update if somebody changes their name. Perhaps you want to keep your database up to date, phone number quality, a whole lot of things, all right, which you might want to keep track of. But I'm only interested in the messages, which is if somebody sends me a message that I'm listening to that webhook, all right, because I don't want a whole lot of noise. That's the only thing. So remember to subscribe. If you don't subscribe, you won't see the message on the webhook. Okay, so don't forget that. And this is right at the end of the video, so if guys are not watching the video to the end, you're gonna miss this part and wonder why your webhook is not working. Okay, so sorry about that. I did it off camera because I was troubleshooting off camera why my webhook was not coming through, but now everything is ready. Okay, so these are the most important things. And what I'm teaching on this channel, guys, even the Facebook documentation itself, if they could just write this up for us, because they've given us this, but this doesn't really even tell you the real structure of where the text message is, for example. You know what I'm saying? So whoever's writing this documentation, if you could just write it like this, people would understand exactly what that webhook looks like. I struggled the first time I did this forever because there is no documentation and there's no one doing this. So even if you search for it on Stack Overflow, you're not gonna find an answer because it's like a new field of, development. But I figured it out the hard way, and now you're watching my channel, you can also just figure it out like I figured it out. This webhook works to verify it and to send back messages, and then this function works to send a WhatsApp message. And then now this has brought us to the end of our video for this week. What we're gonna do next week, now that we have figured out all the functionalities, we've got our functions ready for sending a message, for receiving a message. What we're gonna do now is that we're gonna now integrate this into the actual application itself, so that we can take somebody through a process of, okay, give us your business name. We take the business name, we save it. Okay, what is your business about, so that we can write you a business plan. And then we take all that information, then we combine with OpenAI, and then we put together a business plan that we send back to the person, and that's going to be amazing. So we're going to cover that next week. And thank you guys for watching. I know it was a long video this week, but we have to do, these are the basis of getting the application to run. So next week, when I actually get into the meat of the app, you need to have all of this sorted out first. Okay, so thank you guys for watching, and let's see you again next week or the week after. All right, sharp.